You hear about collaboration, about traitors, about puppet governments propped up by foreign armies. The history books make it clean. They make it simple. A firing squad at dawn, a bullet, justice served. But when you dig into Chen Gongbo's execution on June 3rd, 1946, you find something different, something colder, something that shows what happens when a founding revolutionary becomes the face of occupation, when a man who helped birth the Chinese Communist Party in July 1921 ends up kneeling in the dirt at Suzhou prison, asking the executioner to make it quick. This isn't about whether he deserved it. This is about what happened. The trial that lasted 5 hours, the 13 counts of treason, the guards who befriended him in his cell, the unfinished letter to Chiang Kai-shek, the handshake with the firing squad commander, the single gunshot that ended a life that had crossed every line China drew in the sand during its bloodiest century. You want to understand brutality? Start with the contradiction. October 19th, 1892. Chen Gongbo is born to Hakka peasants in Guangdong. His father, Chen Gongbo, fights the Taiping rebels, climbs to provincial commander, retires to Canton. The boy grows up reading Romance of the Three Kingdoms, devouring every dynasty's rise and fall, but somehow never learning what his father tried to teach him about loyalty. 1917, he graduates from Guangzhou College of Law and Politics. 1917, he enrolls at Peking University, Principal Kai Yuanpei, May 4th movement swirling through every classroom. And there, under Chen Duxiu, he finds Marxism. July 23rd to August 2nd, 1921, a Shikaman building at 106 Wangji Road in Shanghai's French concession. 13 delegates, 2 Comintern representatives. Mao Zedong there, 27 years old. Chen Gongbo representing the Guangzhou group. They're founding the Chinese Communist Party, the meeting that would reshape a billion lives, but Chen Gongbo leaves before it ends. Arguments, factional fights. He sees the splits already forming and walks away. The irony sits there forever. His name stays on the first Congress roll. The museum in Xintiandi honors him as a founder, but he quits the party in 1922, sails for Columbia University, gets his master's in economics by 1925. New York City, 1923. Chen Gongbo arrives at Columbia University, 28,000 miles from the factional wars tearing China apart. He enrolls in the economics department, studies capitalism to understand how to save his nation. His master's thesis, completed in 1924, The Communist Movement in China, 100 pages analyzing the party he just abandoned. The document sits in Columbia's archives for decades. Professor Martin Wilbur rediscovers it. Columbia's East Asian Institute publishes it. Chen's thesis predicts everything. The splits between Moscow loyalists and Chinese nationalists, the tensions between urban intellectuals and rural organizers, the personality conflicts that would fracture the movement. He writes it all down while studying American economic theory. Finishes his degree in 1924. Technically, Columbia officially awards the master's in 1925. Chen's already planning his return. Liao Zhongkai writes, "Come back. The Kuomintang needs economists. China needs modernization. Wang Jingwei wants you." Early 1925. Chen sails home carrying theories about industrial development, market economics, infrastructure investment, everything he'll use as Minister of Industry a decade later. When he comes back, he joins the Kuomintang. Wang Jingwei takes him in. That connection drives everything that follows. Wang is fighting Chiang Kai-shek for control of the party. Chen picks a side. By 1932, he's Minister of Industry, modernizing China, building the economic base that would carry the nation into the next century. 4 years holding that post. Then Wang splits from Chiang during the Wuhan faction fights. Chen follows. 1928 to 31, they're in opposition. Reorganization faction, criticizing every move Chiang makes, but they keep losing. If you value documented Chinese Republican history like this, subscribe. It's the best way to support our work. Also comment from which city you're hearing this from. This script is researched and factual. Using sources from the American Historical Review's peer-reviewed article, Globalizing Han Jian, The Suzhou Trials, published June 1st, 2008 by Margarita Zanassi. Drawing from the Nanjing Municipal Archives, records of the trials of the collaborators of Wang Jingwei's puppet government published 1992, and cross-referenced with Chen Gongbo's son, Kan Chen's papers archived at Columbia University's Rare Book and Manuscript Library. Donated 2003. Now back to the information. 1937, Japan invades. The Second Sino-Japanese War begins. Wang Jingwei still thinks negotiation can save China. December 1938, Wang leaves Chongqing for Hanoi. Announces his support for a peace settlement with Japan. An assassin puts a bullet in him there, kills his friend Zheng Zhongming. That wound never heals, right? But Wang keeps pushing. March 1940. He establishes the reorganized national government in Nanjing, a puppet state. Everyone knows it, but Wang calls it saving what can be saved. Chen Gongbo opposes the whole thing. For 3 years, Wang begs him to come. Chen stays in Hong Kong, refuses, but loyalty wins. March 1940. Chen joins, not because he believes in the Japanese, because Wang Jingwei had built his career, because friendship mattered more than survival instinct. He becomes president of the legislative Yuan, speaker of the puppet parliament. Then, November 1940, Japan hands nominal control of Shanghai to the Nanjing government. Chen becomes mayor. Walk through that moment. Shanghai, 1941, prices increase 11-fold. Rice, tea, coffee, vanishing into Japanese military stores. The Kempeitai watching every street corner. Chinese police working with them, torturing resistance members in basement cells on Jessfield Road. Number 76. Jessfield Road specifically. Li Shikun runs the Secret Service from there. Wang's version of the Gestapo. Chen's trying to clean up the Green Gang's grip on the city while Japanese occupation tightens. He's writing poetry about dance halls, keeping 2 concubines who are sisters, raising his son Khan in a mansion, and negotiating with Tokyo to cut opium imports by half. The contradictions pile up. Patriot, playboy, poet, traitor. But here's what complicates the story. Chen isn't the most powerful man in the puppet government. That's Zhou Fohai, vice president, finance minister, the real architect of the peace movement. Both men attended the first Congress together in July 1921, both founding communists who abandoned Marxism. Zhou went to Japan for studies, Kyoto Imperial University, came back attracted to communism, then quit in 1924. Same trajectory, different choices afterward. When Wang dies, Chen becomes president, but Zhou's influence never diminishes. Zhou becomes mayor of Shanghai in January 1945. Taking the post Chen held, the power struggle between them runs beneath the surface. Chen represents the mansion clique, the old guard loyal to Wang and his wife Chen Bijun. Zhou represents something else. Pragmatic collaboration. He's secretly communicating with Chiang's intelligence chief Dai Li throughout the war, playing both sides. Chen knows this. Everyone knows. But the puppet government keeps functioning because Japan needs it functional. November 10th, 1944, Wang Jingwei dies at Nagoya Imperial Hospital in Japan. Multiple myeloma, 254 days. His son-in-law Ho Mang-hang sat by his bed. Wang's last words, "I must go back to China." But he doesn't. He's buried on Plumflower Mountain in Nanjing, 8 meters wide, 4 meters high. Grass-topped mound, temporary grave. They plan to move him to Canton later. Never happens. November 12th, 1944, emergency meeting of the Central Political Committee. Chen Gongbo becomes acting president, then president, second and final leader of the puppet regime. 10 months left before Japan surrenders, but Chen's presidency is hollow. Zhou Fohai controls the real power: finance, military, police, intelligence. Zhou's network runs through everything. Chen takes office November 20th, makes a speech, says he'll adhere to Wang's policies, won't waver regardless of how the war progresses. Empty words. Japan's losing, everyone knows it. The Allied bombing of Japanese cities intensifies. Nagoya, where Wang died, gets hit repeatedly. Tokyo burns. The puppet government in Nanjing watches its patron collapse. Chen tries to maintain legitimacy, visits Sun Yat-sen's tomb, uses Sun's imagery, claims to represent the true Kuomintang, but by early 1945, the charade is obvious. Zhou Fohai becomes mayor of Shanghai in January, taking Chen's old post. The mansion. Clique around Chen Bijun, Wang's widow, loses influence. Chen's isolated at the top of a crumbling pyramid. He spends these months writing poetry, trying to preserve archives, knowing the end is coming but unable to stop it. August 15th, 1945. Japan announces surrender. August 25th, Chen flees to Kyoto, thinks he can hide. September 9th, Japan's formal surrender ceremony. General He Yingkin, representing China, asks General Okamura Yasuji to extradite Chen Gongbo. The American occupation forces grant it. October 1st, Chen is arrested in Kyoto. October 3rd, U.S. military escorts him back to China. Suzhou prison. 3rd, Jiangsu prison. They call it Lion's Mouth. Chen writes 10,000 words defending himself, expressing his loyalty to the dead Wang Jingwei. He refuses to hire an attorney, doesn't deny what he did, says he acted to preserve what could be preserved, says with 10 provinces already fallen to Japan, there was no nation left to betray. The logic doesn't matter. Chiang Kai-shek wants blood. His son, Kan Chen, 18 years old, will just passed the entrance exam for Tsinghua University, begs Chiang for mercy. Chiang is adamant. The guards at Suzhou grow to like Chen. He's charming them. They don't want to see him shot. That doesn't matter either. April 5th, 1946, Tomb Sweeping Day. Traditional Chinese festival for honoring the dead. They take Chen to Jiangsu Higher Court in Suzhou for public trial. The Shanghai newspaper Shenbao devotes most of its front page to the proceedings the next morning. Spectators pack every space in the courtroom. April 6th. The trial that determines whether collaboration is treason. Prosecutor Han Tao reads the indictment. 50 minutes, 13 counts. Every count carries life imprisonment or death. Mayor of occupied Shanghai. President of the Legislative Yuan under Japan. Acting president after Wang died. Final president of a puppet state. Each position another nail. The trial lasts 5 hours. Chen defends himself, says he refused to cooperate with the Japanese on several significant matters, says he only stayed because of personal loyalty to Wang Jingwei, says they were trying to protect Chinese citizens when no one else would. The court isn't interested in nuance. April 12th, 7 days after the trial starts. Verdict, death by firing squad. Chen takes it calmly. His famous words, "Soon I will be reunited with Wang Jingwei in the next world." His wife deposits an appeal. Multiple press interviews describing her husband's secret communications with Chong's intelligence service, the Zhentong, during the war. Nothing moves. The sentence stands. Between April 12th and June 3rd, 52 days, Chen's in his cell at Lion's Mouth Prison. He's writing letters. One to his family, long, detailed. Another to Chiang Kai-shek, unfinished. He stops mid-sentence, sighs, says the authorities have their way of doing things. Whatever I say is useless. Better not to say more. He gives his regular teapot to fellow inmate Chen Bijun, Wang Jingwei's widow, a souvenir, bows to her, says with my leaving, I can finally face Mr. Wang underground. She cries. The guards watch him. Day after day. Chen Gongbo in cell block 3, 3rd Jiangsu prison. He's 53 but looks older. 6 months of detention, the weight of knowing, but he's charming. Tells stories, discusses philosophy, quotes classical poetry. The guards are professionals. They've seen executions before. But Chen's different. Educated, articulate, a founding communist turned Kuomintang minister turned puppet president. The contradictions of modern China compressed into one man in one cell. They bring him tea, better food than standard rations. Let him keep writing materials. Chen produces pages. His memoir continues. 8 years of memories, starting from 1938 when the war began, ending now in 1946, in this cell. Waiting for the bullet, he writes about Wang, their friendship, the impossible decisions, the belief that collaboration could save lives. Whether it did or not, he'll never know the full accounting. The memoir is his defense to history, not the court. History. Chen Bijun is in the same prison, different wing, Wang Jingwei's widow, Chen's old friend, part of the Mansion clique that supported him after Wang died. She's awaiting her own trial. Will get life imprisonment, will die in prison 1959, heart attack at 68. But in April and May 1946, she and Chen Gongbo share messages through guards. Talk about Wang, the old days, the revolutionary era when they all fought to overthrow the Qing, when everything seemed possible, when China's future looked bright, before the Japanese invasion, before the puppet government, before the choice between resistance and collaboration tore everything apart. The teapot Chen gives her is symbolic, shared tea, shared history, shared fate. When he bows and mentions facing Wang underground, he means it. Chen Gongbo believes Wang Jingwei acted to save China, believes he himself acted loyally. Whether history agrees doesn't change what he believes. The teapot passes between them, a small ceramic piece, a memory of normalcy in the administrative machinery of execution. June 3rd, however, 1946. Morning. They ask if he wants to leave final words. Chen shakes his head. No suicide note. He'd planned to finish that letter to Chiang, but the judge offers him an hour to write. Chen refuses. Only asks to change his clothes, put on something clean for the execution ground. They walk him out. 3rd Jiangsu prison execution yard. Lion's Mouth, Suzhou. The brutality isn't in the method. Firing squads are quick compared to what others faced. The brutality is in the details no one talks about. The walk from cell to execution ground. 170 meters, Chen walks steady. No restraints. The guards flank him. Professional. Respectful. They've grown to like him over 6 months. Now they're walking him to die. The morning air is warm. June in Suzhou. The city is rebuilding. War damage everywhere. Japanese occupation ended 9 months ago. The puppet government collapsed. But the trials continue. The executions continue. Justice grinding through the list. Chen's just one name, one bullet, one morning in June. The execution ground is dirt, flat, open, a wall behind. For the bullets to stop at, Chen sees it. Sees the wall, sees the marks from previous executions, sees the firing squad, one man, not a squad, one professional executioner, rifle ready. Chen approaches. This is the moment, the handshake, the question, who will shoot me, the hope for clean death. The executioner is perhaps 30 years old, perhaps 40, professional soldier, done this before, will do it again. Chen extends his hand. Please help me. Please do me a little cleaner. The executioner understands, nods, shakes Chen's hand, grip firm, eye contact, acknowledgement. I will make it quick. I will make it clean. Professional courtesy between the condemned and the executioner. A strange intimacy, a shared moment. Then it's over. Chen kneels, not standing, kneeling. Standard position, back to the executioner. Head forward. The executioner aims. Center mass, heart, quick death. Chen Gongbo, 53 years old. Born October 19th, 1892. Died June 3rd, 1946. Founding member Chinese Communist Party. Columbia University graduate. Minister of Industry. Mayor of Shanghai. President of the reorganized national government. Revolutionary. Collaborator. Traitor. Friend. Poet. Father. Husband. All of it compressed into this moment. This kneeling figure. This target. This bullet. The rifle fires. One shot. Chen falls. The guards approach. Check the pulse. Confirm death. Remove the body. The entire process takes 3 minutes from arrival to death. Professional, efficient, brutal in its bureaucratic normalcy. If you value documented historical truth like this, subscribe. Comment from which city you're watching from. This is based on primary sources, including Chen Gongbo's memoir, 8 Years of Memories, referenced in prison writings by members of the Wang Jingwei regime, published by 8 Corners Books, trial transcripts from the Nanjing Municipal Archives, official compilation, and contemporary newspaper accounts from Shenbao and Zhongyang Ribao, published June 4th, 1946. Now back to what happened. Chen arrives at the execution ground, asks who will shoot him. He's hoping for a clean death, minimal suffering, one quick bullet. He approaches the executioner, shakes his hand, and thanks him. His exact words according to witness accounts. Please help me. Please do me a little cleaner. The executioner nods. Professional. This is his job. Chen Gongbo, 53 years old. Founding member of the Chinese Communist Party, former Minister of Industry, Mayor of occupied Shanghai, final president of the reorganized national government, kneels. One shot. The brutality is that it was clean. That's what makes it brutal. No torture. No public humiliation beyond the trial. No dragging it out. Just a single bullet. Professional execution. But that cleanliness is what haunts. Chen Gongbo's crime wasn't violence. It was collaboration, choosing loyalty to Wang Jingwei over resistance. Thinking peace with Japan could preserve Chinese lives? History calls it treason. The court called it 13 counts of betrayal. But the execution itself was just bureaucracy. Just one more name on the list of collaborators who thought they could walk the line between occupation and survival. His body is handled according to standard procedure. No elaborate burial, no ceremony. His wife takes their 2 children to the United States. His son, Chen Kan, grows up ashamed, makes achievements in engineering, donates money back to China throughout his life, trying to make up for what his father did, dies in California, 2020. Spent 74 years carrying that name. Spent his last years trying to rehabilitate his father's reputation, publishing his poetry, giving documents to researchers, distributing them free to scholars worldwide. But here's what no one discusses. The trial itself was political theater. Chiang Kai-shek executing collaborators while keeping others in power to run the government. The Communist Party used it for propaganda. Look at the Kuomintang keeping traitors in office. The French trial of Marshal Pétain happened in 1945. Global press covering every detail. The Chinese modeled Chen's trial on that, making it about more than one man, making it about defining what collaboration means, what treason is, where the line sits. Philippe Pétain, 89 years old, hero of Verdun in World War I, head of Vichy France during World War II. Tried for treason. July through August 1945. Convicted, death sentence, commuted to life imprisonment because of his age and service, dies in prison 1951, age 95. Pierre Laval, Pétain's prime minister, executed October 15th, 1945. Firing squad, same machinery, different country. The Chinese watched. The New York Times ran comparisons. June 10th, 1945. Article calling Pétain's trial emblematic of collaboration worldwide. The Chinese prosecution read these accounts, used the language, appropriated the framework. Chen Gongbo becomes China's Pétain, the face of collaboration, the necessary sacrifice to prove that collaboration equals treason equals death. Never mind the complexity, never mind the circumstances. Never mind Chen's argument that 10 provinces had already fallen, that there was no nation left to betray. The framework is set, the verdict is predetermined. The execution is inevitable, but the Chinese trials have differences. Pétain was Vichy France's head of state under German occupation of northern France. Chen was puppet president under Japanese occupation of eastern China. Pétain got life imprisonment, Chen got execution. Age mattered. Pétain was 89, Chen was 53. Prior service mattered. Pétain saved France at Verdun, national hero. Chen was Minister of Industry, respected, not legendary. The calculations shift. Pétain dies in prison. Chen dies at the execution ground. Both collaborators, both tried, different outcomes. The machinery of justice grinds differently in different places, but the purpose is identical. Prove that collaboration cannot be tolerated, set the example, make the statement, move forward. 13 counts, let's break them. Count 1, establishing and leading a puppet government under enemy occupation. Count 2, signing treaties with Japan that ceded Chinese sovereignty. Count 3, serving as mayor of Shanghai under Japanese control, November 1940 to December 1944. Count 4, becoming acting president and president of the puppet regime in 1944. Counts 5 through 13 covered specific acts, ordering Chinese forces to fight against resistance movements, signing proclamations supporting Japanese policy, managing resources that benefited the occupation, each one documented, each one cited in the trial transcripts archived in Nanjing. The prosecution presented evidence, Chen's own government records, signed documents, proclamations issued under his name as mayor. As president of the Legislative Yuan, as final president of the reorganized government, his defense, we had no real power. Japan controlled everything. We were trying to minimize suffering, protect Chinese citizens under occupation, keep some administrative structure functioning so society didn't collapse. The court, irrelevant. You collaborated, you served. That's treason. Wang Jingwei couldn't stand trial, dead 10 months before Japan surrendered. But his regime's survivors faced justice. Chen Gongbo, executed June 3rd, 1946. Zhou Fohai, vice president and finance minister, death sentence commuted to life imprisonment, dies in prison, 1948. Chu Minyi, foreign minister, executed August 23rd, 1946. Lin Baisheng, propaganda minister, executed 1946. Down the list, everyone who held significant office. The tagline people used: Chen Gongbo's mouth, Zhou Fohai's pen, and Chu Minyi's legs. The three pillars of Wang's regime. Zhou Fohai's fate reveals the calculation. Both Zhou and Chen attended the First Congress in 1921. Both founded the CCP. Both abandoned it. Both served Wang's puppet government. Both held senior positions. But Zhou gets life imprisonment. Chen gets death. The difference? Zhou maintained secret communications with Chiang's intelligence throughout the war. Dai Li, Chiang's spy master, kept contact. Zhou provided intelligence, hedged his bets, played both sides. When Japan surrendered, Zhou had cards to play, claimed he was secretly loyal, claimed he minimized Japanese control, claimed he protected Chinese interests from inside. The court believed him enough to commute the sentence. Zhou dies in prison February 28th, 1948. Heart disease. But he lived 2 years longer than Chen. Those 2 years mattered. Chen had no such connections. Chen followed Wang out of loyalty, pure loyalty, no hedging, no intelligence sharing, no playing both sides, just friendship, just the belief that Wang was right. That cost him everything. The execution ground, the bullet, the unmarked grave. Chu Minyi had different problems. Foreign minister of the puppet government, married to a woman from a prominent family, spoke multiple languages, negotiated with Axis powers, got the regime recognized by Germany and Italy in July 1941, by Spain, Slovakia. Romania later. His trial happens spring 1946. Death sentence. Executed August 23rd, 3 months after Chen, but Chu was less visible than Chen, less known. The public outcry was smaller. Chen's execution made headlines because everyone knew him. Minister of Industry in the 30s, mayor of Shanghai during occupation, final president. His face was everywhere. Chu worked behind scenes, diplomacy, foreign relations, less visible, still executed, but with less fanfare. Lin Baisheng ran propaganda, controlled the newspapers. The radio, the message, kept Wang's government looking legitimate in print, formed the committee to publish Wang's writings after Wang died in November 1944, compiled Wang's poetry May 4th, 1945, on Wang's birthday. Trying to build Wang's legacy while the war was still raging, Lin knew the propaganda was failing. By 1945, nobody believed it, but he kept working, kept publishing, arrested after surrender, tried, executed, 1946. The exact date matters less than the pattern. Everyone visible, everyone senior, everyone executed or imprisoned, the puppet government's entire leadership wiped out. The message, collaboration means death, no exceptions, no mercy, political necessity driving the machinery forward. Chen's execution wasn't the most brutal by method. Others died slower, others faced torture before trial, others were killed by mobs before they reached courts. Chen got due process. 5 hours of trial, 7 days to verdict, 52 days before execution, access to write letters, ability to prepare. But the brutality was in the inevitability. From October 3rd, when he landed back in China, he knew his defense didn't matter. The appeals didn't matter. The evidence of secret communication with Chiang's intelligence didn't matter. The political calculus demanded he die. Suzhou in 1946. The city is recovering. Japanese occupation lifted. Buildings damaged. Population traumatized. 8 years of war. The trial happens there instead of Nanjing because Jiangsu Higher Court has jurisdiction. But also because it's away from the capital. Less chance of violence disrupting proceedings. The courtroom fills. Chinese citizens who lived through occupation, they're shouting at Chen, calling him traitor. Jian. The prosecutor reads charges over their noise. 50 minutes of accusations. Chen stands there, doesn't interrupt, waits his turn. When he speaks, he's calm, articulate. A man who knows he's dead but wants the record straight. The guards at Lion's Mouth Prison, they're professionals. But over 6 months, they talk to Chen. He's educated, speaks well, tells stories about Wang Jingwei, about the early revolutionary days, about fighting to modernize China in the 30s, about the impossible choice in 1940. Join Wang, or let him face the Japanese alone. The guards start to see him as human. That doesn't change the outcome, but it means when June 3rd comes, they're reluctant, they do their job, but they're reluctant, the execution itself. Morning, early, before the heat builds, Chen changes clothes, clean outfit, walks to the execution ground without restraints, no need. He's not running, he's 53, he's tired, 6 months in prison. Knowing every day brings him closer to this, he asks about the executioner because pain terrifies him more than death. The handshake is his attempt at control. Make it personal. Make the executioner see him as a person. Maybe that ensures accuracy. 1 clean shot instead of 3 or 4. The executioner understands, nods, aims carefully. 1 shot. Center mass. Chen falls, dead before he hits the ground. The guards approach. Confirm. Standard procedure. The body is removed. Buried in an unmarked location. No monument. No grave marker. Chen Gongbo's physical remains disappear into the record. Just another executed collaborator in a year that saw dozens, but his name stays. In archives. In history books. In the museum at the First National Congress site in Xintiandi, Shanghai, where his role as founding CCP member is documented. The contradiction lives forever. Revolutionary and traitor. Both true. Both documented. His son, Khan, 18 when his father dies, has his whole life ahead. Gets into Tsinghua, but leaves for America the next year. Never returns to China. Becomes an engineer. Retires in California. Raises his own family. Never talks much about his father, but he saves everything. Letters, documents, poetry, photographs. Donates them to Columbia University's rare book library in 2003. 700 pages of handwritten manuscripts, letters from prison, the unfinished letter to Chiang, poetry Chen wrote in the 30s when he was Minister of Industry and going to Shanghai dance halls. All of it preserved, all of it available to researchers now. That donation tells you something. Khan Chen spent 74 years with that name, Chen Gongbo's son. In Chinese culture, that's a mark, a stain. His father died a traitor, but can preserve the documents. Let scholars see the complexity. Let them read Chen's own words. The memoir, 8 years of memories. Chen wrote in prison, his defense at trial, his letters to family, his poetry, not to excuse, to document, to show what happened, what choices looked like from inside. What a man thought when he picked loyalty to Wang Jingwei over safety. The brutality in Chen Gongbo's execution isn't the firing squad. It's the cold machinery of justice applied to someone who thought he was saving lives. The trial that lasted 5 hours for a life that spanned 53 years. The 13 counts that reduced decades of service to treason. The execution that took 1 second after 6 months of waiting. The unmarked grave that erased his body. The silence that followed. The way history simplified him into Collaborator, when the truth was more complicated, not more forgiving, more complicated. June 3rd, 1946. 1 bullet, 1 death, 1 name added to the list of executed collaborators, but the archive shows more. Trial transcripts in Nanjing, Chen's papers at Columbia, prison writings published by 8 Corners Books, newspaper accounts in Shenbao, academic studies like Margarita Zanassi's article in the American Historical Review. All of it documenting that the execution of Chen Gongbo wasn't just punishment, it was statement. Chiang Kai-shek defining what counted as treason, what collaboration meant, who would be held accountable, who would be let go. Because here's the other part. Many collaborators kept their positions. Chiang needed them to run the government in former occupied territories. Technical experts, administrators, people who knew how to make things function. They got passes. They got quietly protected. But the visible leaders, the ones the public knew, they had to die. Political necessity. Chen Gongbo was visible, mayor of Shanghai, president of the puppet government. Everyone knew his face, his name, so he had to die. Zhou Fohai, less visible, got life imprisonment. Chu Minyi, foreign minister, executed. The pattern follows visibility, not guilt level. The guards at Suzhou were reluctant, but they carried out the execution. The executioner aimed carefully because Chen asked politely. The bullet hit clean because that was professional. The trial lasted 5 hours because that was procedure. The verdict came in 7 days because that was the timeline. The execution happened on June 3rd because that was the schedule. Everything by the book, everything proper, everything legal. That's what makes it brutal. Not that it was cruel, that it was correct. By every standard of law and procedure, Chen Gongbo got what collaborators got. Fair trial. Clean execution. His final words, "Soon I will be reunited with Wang Jingwei in the next world." Wang Jingwei's tomb on Plumflower Mountain. Chiang's forces dynamite it in 1946. Scatter the remains, erase the grave. Chen never gets a tomb at all. Both men erased, but Wang left writings, poetry, political speeches. His family preserved them, published them, distributed them to scholars. Wang Jingwei and Modern China, a whole research series. Chen left less, but what he left sits in archives. Available, documented, the letters from prison, the memoir, the trial transcripts, the execution records, all of it showing that collaboration wasn't simple. Execution wasn't just justice. History isn't clean. You want brutality? It's in the handshake. Chen Gongbo asking his executioner for a clean shot, making it personal because that's all the control he has left. The executioner agreeing because he's professional, both of them knowing this is just procedure. Chen Gongbo kneels, the executioner aims. 1 bullet, clean, professional. Brutal in its efficiency, brutal in its finality, brutal in how it reduces a life to a single count. Traitor, collaborator, executed. The execution ground at Lion's Mouth Prison, still there. The building has changed, been rebuilt, repurposed, but the location remains. Researchers have visited, documented the site, taken photographs, measured distances, confirmed details. Hasn't. The execution happened there. June 3rd, 1946, early morning. Chen Gongbo, 1 bullet, 53 years old. Founding communist who became a capitalist, who became a nationalist, who became a collaborator, who became a corpse. The body is removed within the hour. Standard procedure. No public display, no ceremony, just removal to an unmarked location. The death certificate is filed. Cause of death, execution by firing squad, legal punishment for treason. The paperwork moves through channels. Zhongyang Ribao publishes the news, June 4th. Front page. Chen Gongbo executed. Traitor eliminated. Justice served. Nation cleansed. The language is stark, necessary. Political. The readers in Nanjing, Shanghai, Suzhou, Canton, Chongqing see it. Feel vindication, feel justice. The collaborator is dead. The puppet is gone. China can move forward. But moving forward proves complicated. Chen's wife and children flee to America. His widow Li Chong-chen, also called Shunmi Chen, eventually donates Chen's manuscript Bitter Smile to Columbia University in 1967. His 5-volume memoir covering 1925 to 36, before the war, before the collaboration, before the execution. Just Chen's early political career, his time building China's industry, his relationship with Wang. The manuscript sits in Columbia's rare book library, available to researchers. Chen's son Khan donates the rest in 2003. Letters from prison, trial documents, poetry. Photographs, 700 pages of material, all preserved, all accessible. The historical record, growing decade by decade, Wang Jingwei's tomb on Plumflower Mountain meets a different fate. March 1946. Chiang's forces dynamite it, blow it apart, scatter Wang's remains. Erase the grave, can't erase the memory, can't erase the documents. Wang's wife, Chen Baijun, imprisoned for life, still tries to preserve his legacy from her cell. Wang's family, scattered worldwide, publishes his poetry, his political writings, his speeches. Wang Jingwei in Modern China becomes a research series. Scholars study the collaboration, study the choices, study the period, not to excuse, to understand, to document, to show complexity where propaganda showed simplicity. Chen Gongbo never gets such efforts during his lifetime. Dies reviled, dies labeled traitor, dies knowing history will judge him harshly. His son Khan lives with that judgment. 74 years, 1928 to 2020. Raises his own family in California, becomes an engineer, retires, rarely speaks about his father publicly, but preserves everything privately. Documents, letters, poetry. When he donates to Columbia, he's giving researchers the tools to judge fairly, not to excuse his father, to understand him, to see the impossible choices, the loyalty to Wang, the belief that collaboration could save lives. Whether it did remains debated, but the documents exist, the evidence exists, future generations can study it, can draw conclusions, can argue. But Chen Khan dies in California, 74 years carrying his father's name, 74 years knowing what June 3rd, 1946 meant. One bullet, one death, one legacy of shame and complexity tangled together forever. His wife and children fled to America. His son preserved his papers. His name stays on the first Congress roll. His execution is recorded in multiple archives. The trial transcripts are published. The newspaper coverage is saved. The academic studies cite him, but the grave is unmarked. The body is lost. The tomb doesn't exist. Just documents. Just records. That's the brutality. Not the execution itself, the afterward, the erasure, the way Chen Gongbo becomes a footnote, a name in a list, a case study in collaboration trials. Not a person. Not someone who made impossible choices in impossible circumstances. Not someone who thought loyalty to Wang Jingwei mattered more than political calculation. Just a traitor. Just a collaborator. Just someone who died by firing squad on June 3rd of 1946, but the documents survive. 700 pages at Columbia. Trial transcripts in Nanjing. Prison writings published. Newspaper accounts preserved. Academic articles written. And in all of them, you see something more complex. You see someone who attended the first Congress of the Chinese Communist Party in July 1921 when he was 28, who got his master's at Columbia in 1925, who served as Minister of Industry from 1932 to 36, who modernized China's economy, who built infrastructure, who had 2 concubines and wrote poetry and went to dance halls, who followed Wang Jingwei into collaboration because friendship mattered, who died asking for a clean shot. The execution was brutal because it was clean, because it was professional, because it was justified by law, because it was necessary for politics, because it was unavoidable. Because from the moment U.S. forces handed him over on October 3rd, 1945, the outcome was decided. Everything else was procedure. Trial, verdict, execution, done. June 3rd, 1946, 3rd Jiangsu prison, Suzhou, execution ground. Chen Gongbo kneels. 1 bullet, falls, dead. The guards confirm. The body is removed. The paperwork is filed. The newspapers report it June 4th. Shenbao, Zhongyang Ribao, front page, Chen Gongbo executed. Traitor, collaborator, dead. Next case? That's the brutality you don't imagine. Not screaming. Not torture. Not drawn-out suffering. Just cold bureaucratic efficiency. Just 1 bullet solving 1 political problem. Just history moving on while Chen Gongbo's body goes into an unmarked hole in Suzhou and his name goes into the record. As executed, June 3rd, 1946. 53 years old. Dead. The archive holds 1 more detail, a detail that reframes everything. Chen Gongbo's wife told multiple press outlets between April and June 1946 that her husband had been secretly communicating with Chiang Kai-shek's intelligence service, the Juntong, throughout the war, providing information, acting as an inside source. The claim is documented in newspaper interviews. In her appeal, in letters, she provided names, dates, details. The court ignored it. Chiang ignored it. The execution proceeded. Because whether it was true or not didn't matter. The political necessity was clear. Chen Gongbo had to die, not for what he did, for what he represented. Visible collaboration, public treason. the face of the puppet government, so he died. One bullet, professional, clean,